Hello and welcome to the Clock End Talk. Yes, we are an Arsenal podcast. You can get us on Twitter at clockend_talk. I am back and I'm your host this week, Tez. You can get me at GurnerTez, and I'm always joined by Tony. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm still awake after yesterday's game. I mean, I had a good nap during it, or that's what it felt like was happening. But all good.
All good. And as you all know, and I'll explain in a little bit why we have a couple of newbies, but we do have a new newbie this week with us, Tony, and that is Sam. He's a real American. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing great, thanks. Happy to be here.
I'm just happy to have a real American, unlike Schwinn, mate. He conned us a fucking absolute beauty. Shout out to Schwinn because I know he's listening. But anyway, Schwinn, this is what a real American sounds like, mate. So welcome, Sam. Just to let everybody know, look, I've been, I suppose, missing in action for a couple of weeks. As you all know, I did have a few health issues. I've got a team of about 8 different specialists and whatnot. So Darren, he's doing a great job hosting as well, and Tony's always here, but there will be times and weeks that I'm not able to make it. So I do get a lot of DMs and asking where am I, but there's not much I can do when I'm at doctors and things like that. I reckon
you have got exactly 0 DMs asking where you are.
Mate, I've got heaps actually. I was so surprised and shocked because the hundreds of fans who keep messaging me asking where is Tez. Just, haven't you seen the WhatsApp group, mate? Come on.
Yeah, no one's asked, ever. I'm not even sure they know who you are.
So, yeah, basically, if you're new listener to the podcast, yes, I did have some health issues. Anyway, I won't go into it much, but yeah, so, because I'm still trying to understand it all myself. So, anyway, let's get on to a couple of things. So, Tony, we announced the new manager, which was probably the worst kept secret that I could know of, but yeah, Arteta, he's in.
Yeah, in typical Arsenal fashion, seemed to take forever after everyone knew, as you said. I said on here last week that I'm convinced that photo was staged outside his house. Not that it wasn't real, but someone's told the press to be there, whether it was him or us. Don't really know why they've done that, but they're pictured posing outside his house. They wasn't rushing to get into the car. Posing outside his house at 1 a.m. in a club vehicle with a club number plate doesn't add up to me. So you can pretty much safe to assume that deal was pretty much done on Monday morning, and then still took till 5 o'clock Friday to announce him. Seems very strange. But yeah, it's over the line. His press conference was phenomenal. I don't think he could have done any better, and I think a lot of the people that didn't want him were a lot more confident after the press conference, which is probably all you can ask for. He's done as much as he can so far. So the journey begins.
Sam, your thoughts, mate, on the appointment of Arteta?
Really agree with a lot of what Tony said, but I mean, he said all the right things, especially for the group of people who, maybe weren't looking forward to him and had their doubts. I think he really came out and shared a lot of thoughts that we have as fans, and I'm really excited to see what he can do, but time will tell.
Yeah, look, I'm a little bit, I'm not disappointed by any means. Like, I'll always support the manager, whoever that is. I actually threw out a little Patreon article, it might have been the day before it was announced, and I said, is this a joke? I didn't print it out, or I didn't publish it out on our blog because there was a few swear words and whatnot in it. I won't read the article because I can't even find it now. But look, basically, I'm a little bit disappointed. And nothing against Arteta at all. Like, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't matter if it was Tony Adams, Vieira, Henry. It wouldn't matter who it was as an Arsenal legend. It don't matter. It's the fact that he's just got no experience, and I look at our football team and I think there is a lot of things that need fixing, and I just don't know if Arteta's that man, Tony.
I just think we need a disciplinarian, and to be honest, I wasn't sure if he was that. And then the reports were coming out that he is like that and he's very tough, and what he said seems to back that up, that I think one of the quotes was basically, when it's time to have fun, he's at the front of the queue, but when it's not, you got to be serious and you got to work. And saying little things like, oh, there's non-negotiables, there's certain things that they're not up for discussion, it's his way or the highway. Now the trick is, or now the trick is the wrong word, now the challenge is to live up to that. It's all well and good saying these things, and he's got to now do them. So if players break these non-negotiables, are they going to get rid of them? Look, we was all rejoiced last year when Raul and Vinay done the interview saying if you have 2 years left on your contract and you don't sign, you're off. Well, literally less than 6 months later, we're down to 3 key players with only 18 months left. So look, he said all the right things. I don't think the press conference could have gone any better. And for what we needed in terms of needing someone that's just going to be really strong on discipline, I don't think any of the names out there would have fitted in terms of that. They would have fitted in terms of football sense. Look, don't get me wrong, everyone knows Pochettino was my first choice, but I don't think he would have had the discipline we needed. I was just going on his record, and he has been a very good manager. That part of Arteta's unknown, but he's definitely said the right things in terms of disciplinary. And to be honest, that would have been the first thing, because I'm one of them people that some will call foolish that doesn't think it's the hardest job in the world at Arsenal. I think we've got good players. I think it will be quite easy to mould them into a football team. I think the biggest issue is the attitude and getting them to play together and getting them to buy into what the manager or the coach wants them to do. So I think if he gets a disciplinary right, if he gets everyone buying into his plans, I think the job becomes quite easy.
Before I go to Sam and get his opinion, do you think? And look, I might be playing a little bit of devil's advocate here because otherwise it'd be a very boring show. But Tony, do you think like Arteta, his name was mentioned along the runnings of Emery? We were led to believe it was Arteta, Emery. Some didn't even realise Emery was even in the frame. I think it was, but Arteta was a pretty strong favourite back then. Do you feel that do you wonder whether it's been a little bit lazy on Arsenal? Well, Arteta's the bloke because he was going to be second fiddle. He was second choice from Emery anyway. So let's just he's now.
Well, yes and no, because in a sense, if like he was second choice, that was because he beat off all of these other candidates. If he beat off all of these other candidates 18 months ago, and they've done nothing like say Ancelotti, for example, has done nothing in the meantime to make you think that he's now jumped ahead of Arteta. Arteta as an assistant, and yes, I know as an assistant, has gone on to win 3 trophies since then. So his stock has either risen or stayed exactly the same. He's not got any worse. People like Ancelotti have. So I don't know if saying it was an easy decision is the right way to put it, but it kind of makes sense when you put it that way. Also, it has great symmetry to when we got Wenger. The year before they got Wenger, they were looking at him, and then they kind of half bottled it and went with Bruce Rioch, who was, in a sense, a safer name. He'd been managing in England, and at that time, European football didn't really exist. I think Ferguson was considered a foreign manager because he was Scottish at the time. That's sort of how the English league was then. And this time, obviously, they went with Emery because he was a safer bet than Arteta. He'd won European trophies and whatnot. And then a year later, or just over a year later, they've gone back to get the man that was the unsafe choice. So I know it's a different board and whatnot, but there is a lot of symmetry to what happened in 1996.
Mm-hmm. Sam, your thoughts, mate? Arteta, look, and you said you were impressed with the press conference, and look, I must admit I was too. He said all the right things. But do you have that little bit of worry, tactical, when push comes to shove and whatnot?
Sorry, before Sam answers, can I just butt in? Sam, obviously, you've not been here before. Who was your first choice? Who did you want, etc., before you get into the answer about Arteta?
Right. So I think out of who we could see that was available, I would have been very open to Pochettino. I think he's very proven. I think he's a very smart manager. I think he just had, that 6 months after the Champions League where he kind of lost the team a little bit. But I mean, he seemed very, very solid, and I think that would have been my first choice. Ancelotti, though, I would have rather had Arteta. I think Ancelotti and Emery have some similarities, and I was ready for something new at that point, I think, instead of going back to a safe route like we did with Emery.
Okay, so
Okay,
your
and then
thoughts
on to
on
whatever Ted asked.
your thoughts on the Arteta, mate? Do you think tactically he's the, he's very untested, but do you think after the press conference you like what you see? Um, he's going to be that type of manager that's going to sort a few of these players out.
Yeah, I think I'm really hoping he brings the discipline that he's talked about. I know he's spoken of his idea of attacking football, getting back to the Arsenal way of playing a game, and I really feel like that is what we all want to see as fans. We've talked about it for the last year and a half. I feel like he doesn't want to set up to play other teams. They should be setting up to play us. I'm really excited for this. I mean, time will tell. I'm really excited to see how he sets up that first team. But tactically, I mean, we haven't seen him set a team up before, so this will be the first time we see it, and I hope he hits the ground running.
Mm-hmm. No, it's going to be an interesting time, boys. Tony, look, and we'll get on to the Everton game in a minute, but there was a lot of people obviously coming out, blaming Stan once again because he just seems to be that type of he's the scapegoat for everything. Our decline over the last couple of years, who do you put the blame on?
To be honest, one of the last people I put it on is Stan, and everyone knows I'm bored of this whole Stan agenda. Agenda's the wrong word because it makes it sound like they're wrong. If they're wrong, in my opinion, but my opinion's worth as much as everyone else's. Look, there's various people. You can't say a club can't have such a bad spell, and you just blame one single man. Did Wenger hang on too long? Probably. Did Gazidis not do enough? Definitely. Did that year between, was Emery the right appointment? For me, no, and never really was. Do you put some blame on Emery for not doing the job we expected? Yes. Do you blame the people that appointed him? Again, somewhat yes. So there's a lot of people to blame. For me, the reason I'm excluding Stan, for people that don't listen regularly or have not heard me say it before, is he knows fuck all about football. So he has appointed people who are supposed to. He's appointed Raul, who 6 months ago it was Don Raul, Raul's the king, blah, blah, blah. So you can't say that's a bad appointment. Vinay does the business side of things. We don't know how well he's doing. The accounts are private. So we don't know if that's a good appointment or not. People moaning they want to see him at games. Why? He doesn't know what's going on. If I buy a knitting business, I'm not going to watch all the people knit and telling them what to do because I don't have a clue. So I'm going to hire people who are experts in that field and let them do their job. If after a certain amount of time they're not doing their job, you're going to put pressure on them. Or if you think the manager they've appointed isn't getting the results, even though you ain't got a clue what's going on, if you think that manager, this doesn't look right, we're 8th, and you haven't got an idea, you're going to ask them questions. That doesn't mean you come in and the next day say bang, fired, because you haven't got a clue what's going on. But then you ask questions. Are them questions being asked? We don't know. Mm-hmm. We can assume yes or no, and most people have just assumed no, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But I can't put blame on someone who openly admits he knows nothing about the sport and how it runs, is obviously a very good businessman. So what he's done is he's put people in place. I mean, you know yourself, you ran a business for someone. They hired you because you knew about the industry. They didn't hire Fred from down the road who's never done a day's work in his life. It's how things work. If you don't know something about an industry, or even if you do, you put someone in place that is meant to be at the top of that field.
But I imagine if I wasn't doing my job correctly, I'd probably get the sack. And that's where I agree with everything you say. I'm not putting blame on Stan, but I...
Would you sack Raul now?
Well, I think something's gone to a bit of a mess. Yeah, I would. Yeah.
I think you're probably one of the only people that would say that, to be honest.
Yeah, right. I just think, okay, he had a good transfer window. Looking back, I suppose, do we put the appointment of Emery to Ivan? So he probably spearheaded that one. I don't know what.
Well, he was part of the team. There was a three-man team, which was Sven, Ivan, and Raul.
Yeah, I just my thing is, and you talk about the other thing is the business model with what's the other guy's name? What did you say his name was? Vignac or something.
Oh, Vinay.
Vinay. Yeah. So I wonder where Arsenal is sitting. In around the world of stature of a football club.
But again, he's put people in place that are meant to be doing that. And again, we don't know the accounts, so we can speculate. I would imagine our value has gone up. Yes, we're getting less money, but it sounds so stupid. But London real estate, like the Emirates, is pretty much bang in the middle of London and is however many acres. The value of that isn't going down. So,
yeah, I know that. Yeah.
So,
but how many kids are actually running out and buying Arsenal shirts? We're sitting 8th, 9th or something on the league table.
Well, I think that the Adidas was the record launch, and I don't know if you know, they just released remakes of the Bruised Banana, and I thought they were really expensive to be honest. I think they were like £75, and they sold out on every outlet. They sold out online, sold out on the Adidas store. And then someone tweeted, the Arsenal shop have still got loads, so go down there. And then about 2 hours later, it was, don't bother go down the Arsenal shop because they're sold out.
They're sold out, okay.
So, obviously, I'm not pretending I know the exact numbers. And in a way, it doesn't really matter because we're tied in with Adidas for this deal for however many years, and it's at a set price. So it may affect, if they sold at 0 shirts, obviously, let's go extreme.
Yeah.
That only affect us in 5 to 10 years. It doesn't affect us today or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Sam, in America, where does Arsenal sit over there? Is everyone talking about how bad we're doing? Is it kids running out buying shirts?
Yeah. So whenever those throwbacks, whenever they were up online here in the U.S., I think we had about an hour or two. And they were all gone. Because I was looking at some actually, and I was like, hey, that looks pretty sweet. I'm going to get one. And then they were all out. So it's definitely still flying off the shelf here. But the U.S. is interesting for soccer. We're definitely a little behind for the Premier League. But we didn't really start getting it broadcasted over here until about the mid-2000s. Yep. And so, but it's crazy how big it is getting over here. And with like the Fan Fest, NBC does the Fan Fest. I think they've done 2 this year. It's pretty wild. I was in a bigger city last year for the Chelsea game whenever we beat them, and the bar was just packed. And for the U.S., that's a pretty big deal. So. Yeah, but okay. It's slightly sad times for Arsenal right now.
There's shit times at the moment. Okay, righto. Let's move on, Tony. Just quickly, I don't want to be negative, and I know Darren's going to come on and say, "You bunch of negative cunts." But how long are we giving Arteta? And let's put it in a positive way. How long does it take Arteta to turn Arsenal around? How many years you give him?
Look, for me, it's a minimum of 18 months, and you obviously reassess along the way. I think you give him these 6 months, and I think I said this to Darren last week, the reason he's been appointed is to figure out who fits into his plans and who doesn't. And then you go into the transfer window knowing exactly what you want to suit your team. And then you should start off next season, you should be bang on it straight away because you're ready, you're moulded. There's no excuses of it's not his team. He knows who can do what and who can't. And then you can't be doing things like playing Torreira, basically attacking midfield at the start of the next season, because you'd have had 6 months to know that he can't do that, or more than that, 8 months. So I think these 6 months is a learning phase for him and us. We learn what he's about, and we have to buy into it. Even if we don't agree with it, we have to buy into it. And then next season, there's no excuses. Obviously, I'm not saying if he loses the first 3 games of next season, you get rid of him.
Yep. But
next season is a very big season for him. As I said, I think we can forgive most things, unless we go out and start losing 8-0 every week. I think you can forgive most things that happen between now and the end of the season
Yeah.
as a learning phase, and both for him as a full-time manager, having to deal with all the media commitments and stuff, which he's never had to do before. And it sounds trivial, but it is a big job. You got people asking questions you don't want to hear 4 days a week. And then if you start snapping, then you get negative headlines, and we all know how it goes. We've seen it in the press a million times before. So yeah, this 6 months or until the start of next season, learning phase, pretty much get away with what you like, in a sense.
Well, I won't ask. Yeah, well, I won't ask anything about the transfer window because I've just noticed we've got questions on that on our Twitter. So, Sam, how long do you give Arteta, mate?
I 100% agree with Tony. I mean, I think 18 months is that time frame that we have to look at. Him coming in now versus, Freddie carrying this out the rest of the season. I am so glad it happened, and it happened. It took way longer than I think any of us wanted, but I'm glad it happened, and this is his time to make all those changes and really get their strategy ready for this summer. And they should know going in exactly what they need. So I think 18 months for sure. And if we are in a worse position somehow by then, or if we're in the same position, I think it's time to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, it's fucking sad, isn't it? Yeah, I give him until the Manchester United games, 2nd of January. Nah. It's fucking so hard to agree with you, so I don't want to agree, but probably got to give him 18 months. Got to let him. I won't touch on January what he does there, but that, because like I said, we've got questions. But for me, that's I'm gonna see what type of manager he is if he's a bit ruthless, and getting rid of a bit of dead wooden players and etc. So,
I just think, sorry to butt in, I think January is too soon to be ruthless. He's going to have literally, 2 games technically before January, and probably no more than 4 or 5 training sessions.
But do you think Raul, he's obviously been looking towards January and he's got a plan, and now all of a sudden what them plans are going to go because we've got a new manager in, or?
Well, I think in terms of sales that Raul wouldn't have too much to do with it, because you can't pull the rug from underneath a manager's feet.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of incomings, he maybe will, but again, look, our style could be completely different in 2 weeks than it is now. Than our lack of style now. So they may have targeted. I'm going extreme. I know this hasn't happened. They may have targeted a 6'8" centre forward for us to play long balls to all day, and Arteta could come in and say, "I don't want to play the ball above knee height."
Yeah.
Then that 6'8" guy becomes useless. So it may have changed plans slightly. Again, I'm not saying we're going to sign a 6'8" centre forward.
Yeah. Okay, righto. Let's get on to this fucking game. Did you go, Tony?
Yeah, I was there.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Righto, let's go the lineup. This was Freddie's team, so Arteta was obviously in the stands. Blew me away a bit, Tony.
Yeah, I think it did most people. If anyone says, "Oh, yeah, I was expecting that," then I think they're lying, to be honest.
I may have been asleep or something when Smith Rowe come back. When was that?
He played against who was our last Europa League game away in Belgium? Liège, was it? Whoever it was.
Oh, yeah.
He played there. I think he's been in and around. He came on against City as well last week.
Yeah. Okay. Fuck. Just didn't even register in my head that he was back. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. No, it blew me away. Sam, your thoughts? Blew you away a bit, mate?
Yeah. It looked like we were playing another Europa League game. Is what that lineup kind of looked like to me. I'm not really thrilled about Emile Smith-Rowe or Nelson playing in Premier League games yet. I don't think they've really done enough for us this season to be in those positions. But yeah, it was kind of surprising.
I didn't mind Nelson because I look, when I say I don't mind him, I like Nelson, but he reminds me of Iwobi. Just he some great stuff, and then he just can't finish. Just can't cross that final ball or have that last shot on goal or something. I think. But I like what I did see from Nelson. Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Smith Rowe fan. I think he's the best of that, especially from what we've seen so far of the Hale End Academy. I thought he had a bad game. It's funny. I went on my own yesterday, so at half time, rather than talking to my mates, I was on the WhatsApp group, and a few people had said, "Oh, they were really looking forward to watching him play because they'd heard me on here, and then he was a bit shit, and they were disappointed." I just think the game was too big for him. So this is his first start. Everyone's first touch was horrendous the whole game, and he seemed to have a massive problem with that. And I think other people, they kind of got excused because you knew that wasn't normal. So if Martinelli had a bad touch, it was sort of like, well, he doesn't usually do that. It's a one-off. Where people haven't seen a lot of Smith Rowe before, and especially at that level, they just thought that was him. His first touch is like that. But he wasn't good. A lot of people I've seen, not hammering Nelson, it's the wrong word, but thought Nelson played badly or wasn't ready or whatnot. I actually thought he was alright. I don't think he'd set the world alight, but I thought he'd done a half useful job.
Yeah. Look, I really got nothing to go through this game, and it's probably pretty pointless to go through this game because we're going to see a change next week. So anything that tactically happened through this game is going to mean absolutely fuck all next week. So I'm going to go straight. Look, the game finished 0-0. It was a draw. It was a boring game. There was lots of fucking just stupid errors, stupid mistakes. I will just touch so quickly, Tony. Aubameyang did come off. I was looking into the stands. Well, the cameras actually went up to Arteta to see what his thoughts were because, you know, there was lots of things coming out that Arteta's going to be watching the body language as players come off. Aubameyang looked a little bit pissed off. Lacazette then came on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've not seen close-up of the faces and the bench at Everton is at the other side, but what I will say is, as he was sprinting off, because he actually sprinted off, my first thought was he knows someone's watching.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fucking classic.
Just on the game before we skip over it, I actually, being there, didn't think it was as shit as everyone was saying. Like, again, I looked on Twitter when I was on my way back and I was reading the WhatsApp group and everyone was saying how shit a game was. I saw worst game of 2019, blah, blah, blah. And being there, it really didn't feel like that. And then I watched Match of the Day this morning and it was utter shite. I think what it was is that, as I said earlier, there was so many bad touches that they make sort of 50-50 tackles where people are getting smashed. And when you're in the crowd, like, someone goes in for a hard 50-50 tackle and they win it, it gets a big roar, like, come on. And because there was a lot of them, the atmosphere was quite good and it felt like you're sort of cheering quite a lot. But obviously on highlights packages, they don't get shown. So then when I'm watching the highlights and there's literally nothing, there's probably 2 shots in the whole game, and you go, wow, this was really shit. But it didn't feel that bad at the game, and our shape was so much, it was improved so much. Some simple things that we were doing a lot better, helping out the fullbacks when we tried to play out, going long when necessary. They would probably only overplayed a couple of times as opposed to every time, which it has been recently. But yeah, it was an experience watching it back on Match of the Day this morning and seeing what everyone was on about. One of my friends that works for Sky Sports that usually comes to games with me, he couldn't go because he was working on the Championship game. It kicked off at the same time, and that game was 0-0. And he messaged me this morning saying, I thought I'd lived through hell watching that 0-0. And then I decided to watch the whole 90 minutes of Arsenal, and Arsenal was so much worse.
Yeah, it was fucking boring, I'll tell you that. Look, we do a 3-2-1. I was promised by Schwinn that he was going to take over the recording of the 3-2-1. I listened to you boys last week, and yeah, I'll go back through a couple of podcasts and grab the 3-2-1 because that fucking useless cunt is absolutely fucking hopeless. So, 3 points, Tony.
Pretty easy for me. I thought Xhaka was head and shoulders above everyone else. I sound like you.
Fucked. I was going to do that. I was going to say the same thing, and I thought I'll let Tony go first because I was waiting to get ripped from Granite. Oh, look. Go on.
No, I thought something again. I was in the WhatsApp group after the game, and people were were going on about this player and that player and who they thought was best. And I said, look, all of them were good and they're going to be my 2s and 3s, which is why I'm not naming them. But I just thought Xhaka was clearly ahead of everyone else. He won the ball back so many times, strong in the air, distribution was good, maybe made one mistake, which is the one that people are going to pick up on and forget all of the rest of what he done. Dare I say it, a captain's performance.
Yep. Sam?
I think for my 3, I'm going to go with Chambers. I thought he was just very, very solid. Kind of took us back a few weeks ago when he had that other solid game. And I think if he can get in the right groove, I think he could be our main guy there for a while. He just seems very composed. But then last, against Man City, he definitely wasn't. But I thought he was solid. So he's my 3.
Yeah, look, as I give it away a minute ago, I'm going to go Granite. So I thought he was the best on the field by a mile. I'll do my 2. I'll get out of the road. I'm going to go Chambers. I thought he actually, last week against City, he was very poor, but today, whenever it was, 2 days ago or whatever, he came out against Everton and I thought he put on a very good performance. And it's hard for a player like, I'd imagine they know they weren't at their best against the team, and then to come out and really take it on board to, have a great game against Everton. Not 0-0, it's a clean sheet, but I thought he was pretty good. So, yeah, Chambers gets my 2. Tony?
I don't think you could really argue with any one of the back 4 or the 2 holding midfielders being in this 3-2-1 in any order. So it's nothing against any of the others. I would go for Luiz over Chambers, and I think Chambers officially got the Premier League man of the match. Reason being, to be honest, just one thing sticks in my mind. Chambers, towards the end of the game, had a horrible touch right on the edge of our area, but out wide, then had to make a foul to make up for it and got booked.
Yep.
And Luiz made one silly foul in the first half, not quite as dangerous as the one I've just mentioned for Chambers. And barring that, I think they had similar games. And just for me, Chambers' one mistake was worse than Luiz's one mistake. But again, I could put it either way.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to argue with it because it's your 3-2-1. I agree with what you're saying. I thought Chambers got the two gave away the 2 free kicks though. Luiz, Luiz.
Mate, look, I'm not saying
that's the only reason why I didn't pick him. So.
Yeah, as I said, the memorable ones are the one that Chambers got booked for out wide, and there was a Luiz one on Richarlison that ended up, they took a shot and it was comfortably wide. I'm not saying he only gave away 1 foul in the whole game, but as we saw from the Man City game, a foul isn't necessarily a bad thing. There was 2 dangerous fouls or dangerous positions we let them in the game. And as I said, I put 1 foul each, and I'm not even saying they're huge mistakes, but it was 1 foul each from each of them. Yeah. And I just thought Chambers was worse. It was self-inflicted, whereas Luiz's one, he had Richarlison running him at a full pace, and it happens. Whereas the Chambers one was self-inflicted by a bad touch. Again, not saying he had a bad game, thought he had a good game. Obviously, I'm giving him my 2.
Yeah, give him 2. Sam, your 2?
For the 2, I'm going to go with Granite. I thought he did everything you all already brought up, and he kept ticking the ball for us, and I feel like we miss that a lot when he's not there.
Okay. I'm going to go for my 1 point. I'm going to go to Leno for my 1. Look, a clean sheet. I thought he made some really good saves. So.
He didn't make a save, did he?
I think he made 1 or 2, but because I was looking at some stats today. Because did you bring up the Son red card? He has the most red cards or something. We were watching the Tottenham game this morning.
Oh yeah, Son. Yeah.
Yeah, Son, and I can't find it now. But I come across. I think Leno's like. I noticed Leno was. I'm just trying to look for it as I go, and I was like, "Holy shit!" It was some stat that he got, and I was like, "Oh."
He had made the most saves in the league up until last week. He might still be, but I don't know. But I know before the City game, he'd made the most saves in the league. But I think he only made 1 or 2 against City, and he didn't make any. I don't think he made any yesterday. I don't think they had a shot on target.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm giving him 1. And I wrote that down as I was watching the game, so there must have been a fucking reason. Anyway.
again, this could be any. I couldn't argue with Maitland-Niles, Chambers, Torreira, or Saka. Any one of them. Chambers, just because he bounced back from such a shit performance. As I said, I don't think he was any better than any of the others I've just mentioned, but he bounced back from a terrible performance last week, and we all rightly criticised him. So then, when someone comes good after being that bad and regains their confidence, I'm gonna give him my one. But he's won it purely because of what happened the week before. I think if he did better against City, I probably wouldn't have given it to him.
So who was that?
Chambers.
Chambers. Okay, I'm just writing that down. Sam, your one.
We have to go with Saka. I thought, considering he's back at left back again, I thought he was very involved. He had that block on Richarlison near the beginning. I thought he did really well going forward. He found Martinelli a few times, and thought he did very good.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, done. Game done. Boring, done. All over. Right. Let's get some questions. You can get questions at @clockn_talk. We usually post it up after the game, but we're a bit slack. So, because I'm not awake at the games, I usually watch them in the morning when I wake up. So, I can read some questions, Tony, because you wouldn't fucking believe it. I can see, but yeah, you might be able to help me out if you want.
Well, I'll go with. I said to you, I've got some. Maddie messaged me some, so I'm going to go with them. Well, so I think how did you perceive Arteta at Arsenal as a player?
Jeez, that's a tough one. Because now he's your manager. Would he be as... He's not a club legend for me. I think we discussed that a season or so ago. We were looking at club legends and things. He was a consistent player. Was he a superstar player? No. But he wasn't one that I was thinking, oh fuck, I hope we get rid of him. Was I disappointed when he went to Everton? Yeah, but it was just a player for me, I suppose. Like, it was nothing special, nothing bad. It was just he was just a consistent player. I don't know. Sam, what do you got?
Consistency I think is big with him whenever he was at the club. You also, all the pictures are going around now again, of when he was there. Even during training, you can see him talking with his fellow players and helping them along. So I think he definitely had that captain mentality while he was at our club. I think just very consistent and seemed very on top of it while he was there.
Yeah. What about you, Tony?
Yeah, I think pretty much covered it. Missed a 7 out of 10 in a sense. Never really bad, and you never really wrote headlines about him. He was a very good. Well, I don't know if very good captain is the right way of putting it, because people associate Tony Adams, Vieira, John Terry as being good captains. I'd say a very well respected captain. He seemed to hold things together. The players seemed to like him, and he used to do what the game needed. If the game needed a simple pass, he'd play it. If it needed something a bit more adventurous, he'd do it. If it needed a foul to break up play, he would do it. I think he always read the game very well. Was well liked. Again, not a superstar, definitely not a legend. But every team needs them players. No one has 11 superstars.
Yeah.
And you only kind of find out about them players when they're not there. You look at that City team, and no one would ever say Fernandinho's a superstar, but when he's not there, everyone knows about it. And I think Arteta, I'm not saying he's as good as Fernandinho was, but he was one of them. When he wasn't there, you kind of missed what he done, but then when he was there, you didn't praise what he done.
No, I totally agree. What else you got?
One more, sorry, from Maddie. Who do you think will benefit most from having Arteta, Torreira or Xhaka?
I think Torreira.
This is a really interesting one for me, because there's obviously very strong rumours about Xhaka leaving because he doesn't want to be there, as Darren basically said. when the day he got subbed off against Palace and all the booing and stuff started. I think Xhaka is an exact Arteta player. Okay, he isn't the most mobile, but will foul people. Is actually a lot better when being pressed than people think, because he's the best diver in the Premier League for me. He feels contact, goes down and gets the foul 99% of the time. It may not be the ideal way to deal with pressure, but it's better than losing the ball. Will foul people, looks for the ball all the time. I don't think he gets enough credit for that, especially, I mean, yesterday he was going out wide to pick up the ball off the fullbacks, always looks for the ball, never really hides. Sometimes to his own detriment, he takes the ball in positions he shouldn't have it, with his back to goal with two people round him 20 yards from our own goal. But I think a lot of centre midfielders, as Arteta was, will rate someone that looks for the ball. So I think he's someone that Arteta will really like. Does Xhaka want to be there anymore?
Yeah, actually, just listening to you and I'm actually changing my mind, because one thing that you didn't say was, I think Arteta might actually, look, let's face it, Granit got a little bit hot-headed a few weeks ago when he got pulled off and all that. When you know, it was news from everywhere. I think Arteta might actually teach him how to control that. And let's, Granit he's a leader. He's captained his country, he's captained his clubs before, he's captained Arsenal, and I actually think Granit might learn a lot from Arteta in the leadership role. Like not what you mentioned, other stuff, but I mean in the leadership role, to keep a calm head, to keep it cool. You know, the fans are part of the game. They turn up week in, week out. You know, they're not there to give the finger and fucking carry on like a fucking raw prawn. So I think he'll learn a bit from Arteta in that respect.
So I can't argue. I think, look, I'm not overrating Xhaka here. I know he has his flaws, and I know there's times we don't want him anywhere near the pitch. But I just think, look, and we're guessing because we don't really know how Arteta wants to play. But basing on how he played himself and what we've seen from City teams, which yes were mainly Guardiola, but we know that Arteta had a mention in the way they played and obviously brought into it, which is why he was so highly rated. I just think Xhaka's the exact type of player. And look, I'm not saying he's the best at it, but with what we've got, we're not going to go and spend a 40, 50 million on a Rodri or 60 million, whatever they paid for him. To be honest, I don't rate Rodri, but or a Gundogan or someone like that. We're not going to go and spend that money. So I think Xhaka's the closest we've got to it, or going to get to it, with the money that we're going to spend or lack of. And I just think he's a really Arteta type of player. I said the issue is he going to be there beyond January?
Yeah, that's right.
up until all the rumours started, I would have said yeah. If you'd have asked me this on Thursday, I'd have said yeah. But
yeah, now you don't know.
Again, all these rumours have come about Berlin. Are they newspaper rumours? Is there any fact in it? Is there little mumblings going around that it's a personal thing and he doesn't want to be there? He doesn't want to play in front of these fans anymore. We don't know.
Don't know. No, we'll find out. But I'm just having a giggle to myself. Thank you for your questions. I really, really appreciate it, because it'd be a boring show without them. But check out this cunt's name. Fair dinkum. Fuck me. 18yardjob.com. What the fuck? So anyway, he's asked, old 18yardjob.com, what is the most important team on Arteta in a tray when he reports to work on Monday? Aubameyang, Granit's futures, Ozil's form and place in the team, sorting out the defence, centre-back especially, or dealing with Pep's questions on Torreira. So he's question marked everything. So what do you think when he reports to Monday? He's going to be tackling all of the above, isn't he? Go on, Sam.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of that. I think the players' contracts, I think that might come in behind all of that. But defense and current players' form, I think that just takes number one on his list of things to do. And I wish he had a little more time. It's one of the busiest times of year. But yeah, I think that's probably what he's going to have to do.
Am I missing something? Dealing with Pepe's questions. Am I missing something? And you
Yeah,
got
I'm
any,
not-
Tony? Or have I missed
It's
something?
dealing with the Pepe question, and I think it's mean why he's playing one week, not the next. Obviously, has he been a flop? Is he up to the task? Can he drop him if we paid that much for him, even if he's not good enough? I think that's what it means. The Pepe situation is probably a better way of putting it, rather than the Pepe question.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay. Righto, 18yardjob.com. Keep them questions coming, buddy, and don't change that fucking name.
Well, it's a great name because I have no idea what his website does, but it's a plug in it. Someone's going to go and click on it in yourjob.com now. It ain't me, but someone will. So
yeah.
fair play. He's plugged. He's got an advert.
He's done well. Okay, Arsenal Pods and Blogs says, why do you think Freddie played so many youth players against Everton, Tony?
I think he was very pissed off with the performance against City, and rightly so. And it's a free hit for him because, look, had he had to be in charge against Bournemouth, can you risk pissing off a load of senior players, dropping them, and then saying 3 days later, "Oh, come on, then you've got to save me," and put your arm around them? Probably not. Like, whether it's the right thing to do or not, you can't do that. You can't piss everyone off and then 3 days later say, "Oh, come on, mate, do me a favour." So, where he knew that this was his last game, I think he'd done what he thought was right, but maybe wouldn't have been able to do had he been in a situation where he had to lean on them 3 days later.
Yeah. I just think the other reason maybe, look, and I agree with what you say there, but do you think he wanted, because Freddie loves the youth, like, let's face it, he was there last year, and he loves, he knows the youth players. We've said it the last 4 games that he's been in charge. But do you think he's wanting to get them players in front of Arteta for a look?
No, someone asked me that yesterday, and I don't think that. I do think that he thought the players didn't work hard enough last week, and whether they just didn't work hard enough or didn't work hard enough for him, and he knows that those young guys will, because he's had them for, as you said, over a year. So I think, as I said, he wanted work and effort, and he knew those players would give it. So he went with them. As I said, he had a free hit because he knew that he doesn't have to ask them players for a favour tomorrow. The senior players, I mean.
Yeah. Arsenal Pods and Blogs also says, Sam, is Arsenal now a mid-table team after our poor performances in the league for the last 3 seasons? Yeah, wow. Okay.
I mean, if you look at the table right now, we are in the middle of the table. I don't know if that necessarily means we are a mid-table team, but I think we'll climb out of it for sure. But I mean, as it stands right now, if you're looking at the table, we are absolutely a mid-table team.
Yeah, hey, look, the thing is with it is the top 4 have now become the top 6. So for me, we still fit in that top 6. But look, Tottenham, they, in the last couple of seasons, they've been putting a bit of an effort in. So the top 4 has probably gone to a top 6, and then I don't think I don't like to say we're a mid-table team.
Yeah, and it's so tight too. So I mean, we win 2 games, and everyone else gets a draw and a win, or a draw and a loss, and we're right up there back.
I also think asking the question, bring it like thinking about the last 2 seasons when we came 5th and 6th. Okay, it's not the top 4 that we want and are used to and demand as fans, but. And I'm not praising 5th and 6th. We don't want to come 5th and 6th, but it's hardly mid-table, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
You wouldn't look at the table now and go, "Fucking hell, Sheffield United are mid-table." You go, "Fucking hell, Sheffield United are in the top 6." Like, I mean, by mid isn't 5 or 6 out of 20. It's just.
And are we calling Leicester City a top 4 team? They won the league 2 of the season.
Well, no, that's what I mean. This is where the question. If you said, "Are we mid-table right now?" you can only say yes. You have to base it on the fact.
Yeah.
At this very moment, we are mid-table. So at this very moment, are Leicester in the top 4? Yeah. I think where the question said over the last 3 years, are we basically saying, are we now a mid-table club, is what that question's asking. And I'm saying 5th and 6th isn't mid-table, and look, we are where we are at the moment, but I don't think that makes us a mid-table club.
No. Yeah, I agree. Okay, Gooner in Oz. I did see this question, so that's why I didn't ask it after the Everton game. after we did that bit. But Tony, you were at the stadium, so thoughts on that clash outside the stadium with Arsenal Fan TV?
It wasn't just outside the stadium. It started off inside the stadium, probably about 3 minutes into the second half, and was pretty much most of the second half. There's a few different ways of looking at it. Obviously, I've now been home over a day and seen both sides of the Twitter argument as well. The first thing I'm going to say is that Robbie and Nat, or AFTV, saying it was only 20 and 30 fans, it absolutely wasn't. It was pretty much the whole away end that were chanting various songs. Some they won't like, but I think they're fair. People are airing their opinions. And some that were just stupid and ridiculous. There was no racist behaviour for anyone that's asking about that. So I know there's a lot of people disappointed by Robbie partially bringing up the race card. It didn't really make sense. He's like, oh, it's the same as racism, but it wasn't racism. So, but what is it then? It didn't really make sense. Look, they have a platform where people can air their viewpoints, and they don't see anything wrong with that. Fair enough. They then can't go and moan when people chant about them and air their opinion. I think it's the most two-faced thing ever, saying, oh, they disgusting chanting about us and they're trying to censor us and they're just jealous because we're doing well. If they're allowed their opinion on camera, then the fans are allowed their opinion in the ground. Robbie recently done an interview with TalkSport where he lamented Simon Jordan for not going to games. How can you speak? You don't even go to games. Now it's the fans at the games that are chanting against Arsenal Fan TV. So you can't say their opinion don't count as well, because then whose opinion does count? If the people ain't at the games don't count, the people that are at the games don't count, whose does? Look, I'm not a big fan of the platform. I'm trying to keep this as non-biased as possible. There was some things that went on that weren't good, but I see no problem with people chanting against it. It does make money. We all know that. And for me, that's the biggest driver of it at the moment. Would he do it for free? Probably not. And no one's asking him to. Look, it's a good business. Fair play to him. But I'm not a fan. And to be honest, I hope the chanting continues every week. I'm glad, from what I saw and what I've read, I'm really glad there was no violence, because then it kind of gets ruined as violent thugs chant against AFC. It was all words. And yes, some of them were very harsh. No more harsh than what they say on camera week in, week out. So there's no right or wrong. But for me, it has to stay. Look, I'm going to continue chanting when the chants go up. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to make my viewpoint very clear. But it shouldn't go any further than that, because then it is people making their opinions clear. I do find it very hypocritical that their tagline, I think, it used to be, I don't know if it still is, was by the fans for the fans, because the match-going fans are now telling you it ain't for them. And as I said, he said to Simon Jordan that, in other words, he basically only values match-going fans, which makes his whole thing a laughing stock to begin with. But, okay, if you only value match-going fans and they're now telling you it's not for them, it does call into questions. I mean, look, he's going to defend it for his life, because it is his livelihood. It started off as his baby as well, and it makes it worth so much more when you create a business from absolutely nothing and get it to where it is. And again, as I said, I applaud him for it. It is essentially his child. So he is going to protect it for his life and say what he needs to say and do what he needs to do, and fair play to him. But for me, I'm on the side that will protest, if there is a right word, chant against it. And for one, I hope the protests work, but I don't want it to get any more. I don't want it to get violent, because then it becomes not just a protest. It becomes violent thugs done this, that, and the other, which isn't right and isn't needed.
No, well said, mate. Well said. I'm not going to add any more to it, because I'll only start a bit of a fucking blue, so I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah, it's probably, to be honest, the better opinion here is probably Sam's, because I don't know if he listens to it, but it is believed that a large amount of their audience is abroad, and it makes them feel closer to the action. So obviously Sam is abroad. Do you watch it? What are your thoughts on it? Obviously, don't be too harsh, or be harsh if you don't give a shit. If you hate them, hate them.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I listened to a little bit of Arsenal TV. I think
that's too much, right? Cut off, Sam.
When I first started supporting the club, back in probably 07 or 08, but it kind of just wasn't for me. So I think what you said is spot on. I think that kind of sums up how I feel as well, to be honest.
I will add, I also run a Facebook group, 5,000 fans, based in Australia and whatnot. We just had the conversation the other day about it, it was going around. And I don't, look, great business and everything, I'm not going to say a bad thing about them, good on them, but I do wonder how many Arsenal fans watch it, because in the group there was probably 2% of the vote who said that they were, that I know that are Arsenal fans that said that watched it. So unless they're just talking out their arse, I don't know. But I just wonder how many, obviously Robbie would know with his stats and things, but I wonder how many actual Arsenal fans who actually watch it, because there was a lot of Tottenham fans who love watching it and having a laugh and taking the piss, and Manchester United, Chelsea fans. So, yeah. Interesting. But no, let's move on. Let's move on. I don't even know how to spell this cunt's name, let alone fucking say it. Well, fair dinkum. What happened to fucking Sam and Paul and Bill and fucking John? ANIRUDDAH. HA, sorry. Arsehole, that's his name. He says, do you think the midfield we have is good enough to execute Arteta's plans? If not, what kind of midfielders do? So he's, Edu or Raul go after. Can you give some specific names, Tony?
Again, this is going to come down to a lot of, we don't know what Arteta's going to do or what his philosophy is. He wants to play with the ball. As I said, look, I think Xhaka's a fit. Ozil's a question, because we know he's got the technical quality on the ball. Is he going to work hard enough? Or is Arteta going to demand he works hard enough? Or is Arteta, who's played with him and knows everything about him, going to think you can hurt the other team when we've got the ball? So you can switch off to an extent defensively, but create havoc when you've got the ball. And it's not your job to go chasing the other centre midfielder 60 yards, but make sure when you've got the ball, cause problems. It's really hard, and I know he's asked for specific names, but we don't even know if he's going to play with a back five, because he's never managed a game before. We know City didn't. I would imagine, had everyone been fit and he has had a full training session, a full week or 2 weeks training sessions, it would be Torreira, Xhaka and Ozil against Bournemouth on, I went to say Sunday, Boxing Day, whatever day it is, Wednesday, Thursday, fuck knows, I've lost track. But he hasn't had that. We don't know who's fit. We don't know who's carrying stuff from yesterday. Torreira was struggling towards the end. Was that just tiredness, or was there a little muscle pain? We don't know. Obviously, not all of the players trained today, only the ones that weren't really involved yesterday or played less than sort of 20 minutes. So do them players now that train today having a bit of an advantage because they've got extra sessions with him that the other guys don't? It is just impossible to say. I mean, even by the time January comes, I don't think it'll be easy to say this is the player he should get, because we don't know. I think that, judging by what I think he wants to play, someone like Thomas Partey would fit, uses the ball quite well, good energy, breaks the play up, would cost an absolute fortune, I presume. But I'd say that's probably the upgrade on Xhaka, but there's much more pressing areas. If he's got a certain budget, then do you upgrade a player that is maybe not quite good enough for the job but can do a job, when you've got players in other positions that just can't play for him at all? I mean, I think there's a few interesting things based on how I think Arteta will play. I think Maitland-Niles will get a lot of games at right back because they like footballing fullback. I presume he's going to like footballing fullbacks the way he did it, the way Guardiola's teams did at City. I think Kolasinac could be in trouble because I don't think he uses the ball well enough. I think Guendouzi could be in trouble because he doesn't affect the games enough at either end, and just defensively is terrible, unless they can get him to just start fouling everyone at all times, and the art of fouling people without getting booked, as the City players do so often. If not, I can see issues for Guendouzi, but I could be talking absolute shit, because Arteta could love players that run around a lot but don't affect the pitch at either end but keep the ball quite well. without knowing what he wants, it's very hard to speculate.
Oh, this is Schwinn's burner account, I'm sure. Enaruda that's his name. The whole time you were talking, I've been sitting there trying to work out how to pronounce his fucking name. Didn't listen to one word you actually said there. Did you answer the question?
Yeah, I think that.
I was going to say something on that question. Can't remember now. Don't matter. Must have been a lie. RCF. We got heaps of new fucking question people, haven't we? It's good. Sam, where do you think Arsenal realistically finish this season?
So this is tough. I'm a very optimistic person, so I think we can still definitely get top 4. It's definitely reachable. I think we really could.
Fuck off, cunt.
I think 4th is still open. I don't think it is consistent enough to get that position. I mean, to fairly say they'll absolutely get it. I think it's still open. I think realistically, I think we'll get top 6. But 4th is maybe a reach.
4th is a big fucking reach. And I'm a gambler, but I'm not even gambling on that. Yeah, 6 maybe. What do you think, Tony?
I half agree with Sam in that I don't think 4th's out of reach. I absolutely don't think we'll get it, but I really don't think it's out of reach. To be honest, anywhere below 4th, I don't really care as long as it's not battling relegation. To be honest, I'd rather come 7th than 6th and not have the Europa League next year. Actually, I don't know if that's true because you get the distraction, but then it's probably the easiest way to qualify for the Champions League. I think we will come top 6 or top 7.
Sheffield United in 5th. Fuck off.
Look, I think Sheffield United will fall away.
They'll go.
I think City and Liverpool are guaranteed top 2. Leicester, at the moment, I have to say I think they're going to make it, but they're not really a big squad, and they're a couple of key injuries away. If Vardy gets injured, then Iheanacho isn't good enough to do the job week in, week out.
Yeah, but they're out of just about... Are they in any other comps?
No. Oh, sorry, they're in the semis of the Carabao Cup, and they've got Aston Villa in the 2-legged tie. But they're not in anything else. They'll be in the FA Cup, obviously, come January. Yep. But no Europe. But as I said, if Vardy gets injured, Iheanacho is not good enough to do a job for a prolonged period of time. If Soyuncu gets injured, their defence then becomes Evans and Morgan, which isn't good enough for any length of time. If indeed he gets injured, I just don't think they've got anyone to replace. I don't think many teams have anyone to replace him. I think he's a top quality player. If Maddison gets injured, I don't think they've got anyone to give the supply line. So as I said, at the moment, I would say Leicester are guaranteed in the top 4, but 1 or 2 injuries and they could easily fall away. And then I'm not sure if 4th is for 1 or 2 places, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And no one's going to be consistent. I think it could be a record low to get 4th. I think it could be a really low points tally to get 4th because everyone's losing. I mean, look at Tottenham. They've only lost 2 games under Mourinho against top Chelsea and United, top teams. You've got United who seem to beat all the top teams or draw against the top teams and then lose to whoever's bottom. I think they've lost 5 games this season and they've all been to teams below them and they're 8th. Yep. So that shows where they're at. So Chelsea have just not won in 5 or won 1 in 5 until today when they've gone and battered Tottenham. I think it really will be a record low, and that's the only reason we've still got a chance. I think in a normal season, we'd be fucking miles off. Like they said during the Man United game today, they've got 4 points less than they did when they sacked Mourinho at this same weekend last year. But now they're only... It was before the Chelsea game, so they were only 1 point off 4th. They may be 4 now. Whereas that last season, they were 13th with less points, with only slightly more points. So it's... The low amount of points makes me think we can still finish high, not because we're that good. It's just everyone is going to drop points, and they are consistently every week. So you don't know what's a bad result. You go and get a point at Everton and think, "Oh, that's shit," and then Tottenham lose, United lose, and you think, "Cool, we Leicester lose," and you think we've actually gained a point by being shit.
it's
I
crazy.
mean, every point is sort of not crucial but worthwhile, and you never know what's a bad point until everyone else has played.
Okay, Sushant, he says, so he's got a couple of questions, so I'll start with the first one. Do you worry about Pepe somehow never getting regular run in the team? Look, I'm just going to move on these quickly. You boys add your thoughts if you want. My thoughts are things are just about to change, I think. I think just wipe away what we've seen for the last, well, whatever's happened behind us, we've got to put it behind us, and I think Pepe will be in Arteta's team.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, it has been a weird one. I feel like I'm saying this every week. He goes from being our only player, like our only tactic against both West Ham and City was give Pepe the ball, hope he travels 30 or 40 yards, and then something happens somehow by magic. Or against City, it was also play it in behind to Martinelli. So you think that Pepe was our main attacking threat in the last two games, and then suddenly he's dropped. And this happened a few times this season. I don't know, is he not physically ready? Is he not? Does he play two games and then he's only 70%? And they know that, but they're not telling us that.
Well, they did that with Lacazette. They've done it with Torreira. They've done it with Kolasinac. Everybody who come in from away, by the French league or Germany, they've all Italy. Yeah, they've all had that. Give them a rest.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes from baffling. They go to like unused subs so often, no matter if we need a goal or not. He goes from being main man, you're the star guy, you do everything, to then 3 games in a row or whatever where he doesn't play at all. I agree with you. I think he is going to be a Arteta type of player.
Yep.
Stay high and wide, very quick, can beat a man. In France, it looked like he had a good goal tally. Obviously, that's not come to fruition here yet, but can Arteta unlock that? And he looks like he would be the type. Again, we're guessing what Arteta's going to play like, but he looks. What I'm imagining Arteta is going to play like. He looks like the type of player that again will be a perfect fit.
Absolutely. Number 2, Sushant says, Sam, this is for you, buddy. How do you think we struggle to connect defence to midfield with attack? What's he saying?
Something is broken this year.
Broken this year. STH, whatever you abbreviate that, dude.
How do we fix that? So, I think playing out of the back is. I think doing it over and over whenever we can see it's not working. I think that's when we have to switch it up. I mean, we can't just keep doing it if it's not working. But I think just better movement. I think they get themselves into more pressured situations than they probably need to. But hopefully Arteta can help fix this because it's definitely, I think, other than defending, I think it's what we have the most trouble with right now.
Do you think the combinations are working? Like I don't know if Tony said as well. I think we said. Well, I said Torreira and Granit, they're the two best that we've got in the midfields now. But do you think the combinations are working and the chopping and changing? You got Guendouzi, then we got different defenders. Then for me, I don't know if that's what's the problem is, and we just haven't got that consistency.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
Yeah, I'm a good point type of guy. Okay. Tony, you want to say something?
I said you're not.
Oh, okay. Can't. Tony, what do you think of Saka, Maitland-Niles, Smith Rowe, Nelson? I think they were a bit flat, especially Smith Rowe, while Saka was good. So you pretty much said the same anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Smith Rowe got better in the second half. I thought he was terrible in the first half. And I wish he had more authority because there was one chance Aubameyang P-rolled back to Pickford where Smith Rowe, if he'd played 5 games, would have pushed Aubameyang out of the way and hit it. And he can hit a ball from long range usually. So I just wish he had a bit more seniority. I think he did get better as the game went on. I'm not saying he was good. Again, Nelson divided opinion for me because I thought he carried the ball really well. Nothing really came at the end of it. But if you're running 30, 40 yards and getting the team up the pitch, especially when no one else is doing anything, for me, that's not terrible. But then I see other people and I understand the point. Well, there was no end product. There was nothing coming from it. So I can see a bit of both. I didn't think he was as bad as people were saying. Again, Saka, I thought he was quite disappointing going forward. A few overhit crosses, a few runs where he could have got his body across and he allowed them to make the tackle rather than if he got his body across, he would have just been fouled. There wouldn't have been any opportunity for them to make the tackle. Solid enough defensively. I don't think he was really tested though. What I did like, and I've not really seen this come up anywhere, at the end of the game, most of the players, I think all of the players came over and sort of applauded the fans. But the 6 English boys, so obviously Saka, Willock, Smith Rowe, Nelson, Chambers, and who's the one I've missed? Whatever. The 6 of them at Nelson, the 6 that played, all stayed and sort of clapped the fans for a long time. And I'm not sure if that's something that, again, they know Arteta's watching, so they've shown trying to get something back from the fans. But I thought that we've always saying we want people that get it and understand whatever it is, people that understand what it means to play for Arsenal. We consistently say that these players don't get it, they don't care about the shirt. So when you see players doing that, I personally think you've got to praise them, because you can't hammer people when they're not doing it and then ignore it when they do.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say what I always say, that it's all well and good doing it when, if you're going to do it when you win and you're going to do it when you draw, you've got to be man enough to come and do it when you lose. And that's always been my problem with Arsenal, that the players will happily stand there and get clapped for 25 minutes when you win and had a good performance and everyone wants to give them a pat on the back. But when they lose, they either don't come over, clap once and walk off. For me, you've got to take the good with the bad. That goes for fans and players, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Sorry, everybody's just walked outside to see me sitting out the front here with a microphone and computer and talking to you guys and thinking, I think my wife said you're an embarrassment. But anyway, here's my daughter now. She's come to say hello. So
can I say hi?
You can say hi if you want, Donna.
Hello.
Right.
Hello.
Righto. Questions. What else we got? Gator Gooner. Where do you see us with Arteta? I'm excited about, but we need time. Do you think there was a better option now? I actually wrote that article that came out, and I was like, because I was disappointed with Arteta, and I said that at the start. It's nothing against Arteta. It's nothing against anybody who it was. I just wanted somebody with experience. Pochettino, he was high up on my list. Other managers I did mention, but then I thought about it after I did mention them. Rafa was going to be ungettable, not going to happen. Brendan Rodgers, I thought there might be a chance with Brendan Rodgers, but then again, when your team's sitting second on the ladder, does he want to leave? So Eddie Howe, he's another option. He's kept Bournemouth up for a long time, which I don't know if Bournemouth expected to be in the Premier League for this long. Allegri I also put here because, obviously, let's face it, he is a good manager, just not my preferred manager. And so anyway, Tony, that's what I was looking at. Was you could also throw in the Wolves manager, Nuno, is it?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think I would have had Pochettino and Allegri over Arteta. I think he would have been above all of the others you've mentioned. As you said, Rafa was ungettable, Brendan Rodgers was ungettable. He used our name to get a new contract. Everyone could see it come in. Like, what manager ever comes out in an interview and says, "Oh, I've got a release clause"? Like, I've just never heard anyone say that before. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. And then 2 days later, lo and behold, he signs a new contract on more money with a higher release clause. Fucking shock horror. The problem with Nuno, and it's not that I don't rate him as a manager, it would just mean becoming a Mendes club, and I'm not sure that's a great thing for a club to be long term. You don't want to be an agent's bitch. It could short term bring some good players and some results with that, but I think these things are always going to end up messy, and I think it will end up messy in time for Wolves. So it wasn't so much Nuno, it was just being a Mendes-ran club that I was against. Ancelotti,
I didn't even mention his name, Ancelotti. He wasn't even on my list.
Yeah, I think he's a good manager, but again, I want someone that the players are going to be scared of, and I don't think that anyone's going to be scared of him. Not, as I said, it's nothing. It's not a reflection on his managerial abilities, but the Bayern players pretty much just completely disliked him and done their own thing. By all accounts, the Napoli players, the owner ordered a training camp and none of them went. Yeah. And I think if you've got a manager you're shit scared of, you go, whether you think it's the right thing or not, you'll go into that training camp.
I think he had a few bucks to spend last summer too. So, Napoli, yeah, they did. They spent a few dollars last window. So expectations were going to really, really, put up a challenge for Juventus. But it hasn't happened. It hasn't. Well, Juventus, they're thereabouts. Inter are the ones to catch. I'm pretty sure they're top of the table. But
I think Juventus have got a game in hand because they played the Super Cup today.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's tight.
It's tight, but yeah. But Napoli have fallen well and truly down. So they, and for me, if he couldn't get it there, he couldn't do it there. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, well, I don't want him at Arsenal. Like, for me, he's gone down a little bit. Like Rafa, for me, he's gone up. Do I make sense? Like Rafa's ability.
Yeah, I know what you mean. His reputation's improved. But I mean, he's on stupid money in China. Has never broke a contract. Probably ain't going to anytime soon. He loves Liverpool. He loves England. His family still live in Liverpool, and I think they have pretty much the whole time, even when he was coaching abroad. Is London? I know this is a stupid saying, but London isn't really any closer to Liverpool than Madrid is in a sense, in that you'll fly in if you've got a private plane put on by a club. You don't have to check in 2 hours before and all that shit that we have to do, and it's probably a similar amount of time. So yeah. I don't think he was ever an option really. Again, he would have. To be honest, I'm not even sure if I would have wanted him. I do rate him. I think people kind of underrate him because he's seen as negative, but it's not really the case when you look through his career. I think defensively he would have sorted us out. Again, does he come with that fear factor and get the respect? I think probably not, and that's what cost him at Madrid. The players didn't respect him. And as I said, I think the main thing we needed was someone that is going to come in and the players are going to be shit scared of. And I don't think that was him. So I would have taken him because he would have sorted our defence out. But I'm not sure if I'd have had him over Arteta. That's a bit 50-50. As I said, for me, the two I definitely would have had are Pochettino and Allegri. So I think Pochettino just gets the best out of players. And Allegri makes teams defend and the players would be scared of him. So they both tick different boxes. Benitez ticks one box, Arteta ticks another box and is unknown. For me, it's 50-50 between them two.
Sam, you agree with most of that, mate?
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
Yeah, okay. Halls of Marble says, is Nelson up to the mark? Would Kolasinac be better as a wide forward since he gets into good attacking positions better than the defenders? What is your favourite game performance this calendar year? For me, it's both games versus Valencia in the Europa League. Sam, you had something to that? Nelson up to the mark, mate?
I think, like Tony said, he can carry the ball well. And in some games, we do see him, hit that final ball. I think compared to Kolasinac, I'd much rather have Nelson out there, out wide, making the runs. But yeah, I think if I had to go with one or the other, I'd absolutely go with Nelson.
I didn't watch much of Nelson last year on loan, but reading a lot on Twitter, people were saying we can't wait to have him back. But now we're seeing them. I don't know if it's the same fans, so I'm not aiming this at you at Halls at Marble, but it seems to be fans are going, well, I don't want him now. So it's so mixed reaction, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've never been a Nelson fan, really. Obviously, I said what I said about him earlier. I would prefer him to Kolasinac. I think it's very easy to get in good positions as an overlapping fullback or wingback. It's different when you're the winger and the fullback's sole job is to stop you. You can't get in places unnoticed. Kolasinac can't really beat a man. He gets there by being a third-man runner. And also, Nelson played 95% of the game yesterday on the right, and Kolasinac could only play on the left. So that would mean moving Martinelli over to the right where he's not looked as good, or unless Pepe comes in and you're saying drop Martinelli. I don't know how you'd configure that team, but you wouldn't put Martinelli out of the team just to get Kolasinac in it. Well, I wouldn't. I think that's probably the question you've got to ask yourself. It's not, is Kolasinac better suited than Nelson? Is he better suited than Martinelli? And absolutely not, is the answer for me. The other part of the question, what's been the most memorable game or performance of the year? For me, it was Chelsea at home in the league. The Valencia games, they were in both of them. I mean, I was there at both of them. We were 1-0 down in the home leg. The away leg, I can tell you at 1-0 down, we were shitting ourselves, even though we were still 3-2 up on aggregate. And then we did stride away in the end. But even at 2-2, I think it went 2-1 up, and then they made it 2-2. Again, we were shitting ourselves. The Chelsea game, and you've got to remember, Chelsea, a team that ended up winning the Europa League and against us and finished above us. So you've got to say had a better year than us. And at home, I just think we didn't give them a sniff. I think we beat them so easily that you've got to say it was a great performance. I mean, my natural answer would have been Tottenham, but it was the year before. Oh, no. No, it was the year before. It was December last year. So for me, the Chelsea game, through the ease, we beat a team that weren't playing the greatest at the time, but turned out, when you look at the end of the season, to be a top 4 team and a European trophy winning team.
What about you, Sam?
This is our best performance in the last year or so.
Your favourite game or performance this calendar year? So
2019.
Yeah, 2019.
Calendar year.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was that Chelsea game, because that was the game where I was out of town and we went to a pub and got great seats and all the Arsenal fans in there. We were very excited with that game because we were used to not shoring up the game. And yeah, I remember that game. It just seemed so comfortable. I didn't feel like we were actually going to give it away at any point. We pretty much handled the whole thing.
I'm going to throw something different because, I'm going to throw this season. Now, we went on a little bit of a shitty run. We got beaten by Sheffield United. We played that, who was that? Victoria mob in the Europa League, and we won that 3-2. But then we come against Crystal Palace and we drew that game. And who were we up against in the Carabao Energy, whatever the fucking drink that cup is? Oh. Liverpool. And we're all sitting there going, oh, fuck, this is going to be a nightmare. And it ended up 5-5, or so it ended up a draw, and then it went to penalties. And for me, I remember it was just look, not performance-wise, but it was just a good game of football to watch, and it's probably the one that stands out for me this season because I can't think of any others that then I had a bit of a break. So, and since I've been out of hospital, I haven't liked anything I've seen. So, yeah, I'm going to run with the Liverpool game. 5-5 went to penalties. Okay.
I mean, you're wrong, but fair enough.
I'm wrong?
Yeah.
Why am I wrong? What do you mean?
Shit.
Oh, it was a shit game, but it was like, there was plenty of goals, so it was, I said performance wasn't
You can go and watch basketball, they score 300 basketball.
It's just plenty of goals, that's all.
I said basketball ends up like 112, 110.
I'll be honest, I thought we were going to finish 5-0. Okay, where am I up to? Who asked that question? Halls and Marble. He also says, I'm buzzing. We kept the clean sheet. The only one I've seen lately was from my washing line. Was Luiz the best Arsenal performance to date? Oh, he's been pretty good. Best to date, though. I don't know. What do you got, Sam?
I think it's one of his best to date for sure. I'm trying to remember which game it was earlier in the season when he did have a really solid game. But I can't pinpoint which one.
No, I think I know what you're talking about. It was like the first couple of games he come into, and He was really good. I got a memory like you, mate. I can't remember, but because I remember we were copping a bit of shit because we signed him cheap, and then I was like, oh, hang on about this. He's going all right here. I can't remember. Tony, you might remember, but yeah, I got.
I mean, I know there's been a couple of times we've praised him, but more often than not we haven't. The only thing I'm thinking, and I can't remember if he played well, but we beat Bournemouth 1-0 and he scored and we kept the clean sheet. Obviously, the fact we won 1-0, so maybe it was then. But I can't remember him having a performance where I said, oh, yeah, he's good. Well, I just can't remember what game it was, and I don't know if it was that game. So this is the best I can remember, but I can probably only remember it because it was yesterday.
Yeah,
in a month's time, probably forget this performance.
Forget. Yeah, 0-0 doesn't ring a bell. You don't go, oh, that was a fucking great game. I'll put that in the memory bank. Like that Liverpool game, 5-5.
Liverpool reserves.
Okay. FPL Canada, he says, Freddie sent a message by playing the kids. Do you think that message came from Arteta?
No. I think he was just given the freedom. But as I said earlier, he didn't have to lean on the players the next day, so he had no worry of pissing people off.
Yeah. The Red Custodian says, I like that name. It's a real tough fucking name, that.
Anyone you can say.
Oh, mate, could you pronounce that other bloke's name? Come on. Not even Schwinn could tackle that one. Dear gents, thanks for another great year of podcasting. Despite daring tell us all we're all miserable, what you do is greatly appreciated and enjoyed. Thanks, mate. My question, what is your favourite Arsenal-related Christmas memory? And happy Christmas to you all. Tony?
To be honest, I don't really have one. I have one Arsenal Christmas memory, and it's the biggest load of nonsense. It's nothing to do with Arsenal. Remember when I was like stupid young, my aunt got me an Arsenal money box, but it was in the shape of a football, and I was very stupid and thought it was a real football. So I literally was about to drop it and take a first touch, and obviously this thing is made of like China or some shit.
Oh, shit.
And as I was about to drop it, literally try and take a touch, I was going to volley it. Like someone was like, no, so I didn't drop it. And then, yeah, obviously that would have ended very badly. That's not a good Arsenal memory. Well, but it's the only Christmassy Arsenal thing I can ever remember in terms of, like, I know some people might say, oh, getting a shirt or, like, do you know what I mean? I'm wrapping your present and finding out it was the latest Arsenal shirt, but I always got them when the season started. So
you didn't get them, yeah.
And my birthday is before Christmas as well. So if I didn't get them when the season started, I would get them for my birthday. So I was never really one for Arsenal merchandise and stuff. And then obviously there's no games at Christmas. Boxing Day games are traditionally high scoring but shit because everyone's knackered. So I don't really have any real Arsenal memories.
No, I'm a bit the same. I don't really have any. I'm just trying to think now, but yeah. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, not getting some gifts, but I mean, apart from that, when the Leicester game, whenever we were actually gonna fight for the league and ended up giving it to Leicester, that win,
that wasn't
whenever Welbeck hit that header into the back of the net, whenever we beat them at the end, it was about the middle of the season. I remember. I think it might have been near Christmas. I can't remember though.
Valentine's Day.
Day.
Yeah.
So after
Tony brought that up before.
Yeah.
Tony and Darren had a blue over that, didn't they? Darren, a little.
He's still not admitted he was wrong.
It might have been my favorite late Christmas present that Arsenal gave me, but
Yeah, that's like me saying, the day we got confirmed invincible, or the day we won the league at White Hart Lane. I mean, it was in April, but fuck it, it was late Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. FPL Canada, has your opinion of Arteta's suitability to be the Arsenal manager changed after listening to his comments during the introduction interview? Oh, look, he did it really well. What can you say? Like, he said everything right. If any fan who watched that and then went, I don't want Arteta as my manager, well, you're a little bit deluded, because I don't know what else he could have said to, give you a bit of a stiffy. So that's all he did. Like, he said everything right. He said everything correct.
Well, as well, one thing that we've not brought up, just to add on this, when I don't know if you saw it, it was wasn't in the press conference, it was on the other interview, and they said to him, has Arsenal lost that bit of tradition? I can't remember the exact word. It wasn't tradition, and he said, yeah. He said, unfortunately, yeah, and he actually genuinely looked hurt by it as well.
I did see that. Yeah,
It's annoying me that I can't think of the word they used. As I said, it wasn't tradition. But just admitting that, to be honest, that makes me feel better rather than someone coming in saying, no, everything's fine.
Yeah. I think he'll bring that. He'll get it. I feel he'll bring that back, but because we are missing. And I'm trying to think what that is because I can't think of the word at the moment. So, but I think he'll do that. But my only issue with is I need to see what he's going to be like tactical when you're up against Manchester United. What are you coming out as? Like we're led to believe Emery was going to be watching all these videos, and look where that got him. You know, like.
Who was I talking to yesterday? And I can't remember. It might have been in the WhatsApp group. And for me, one of the best things, if you watch that behind the scenes YouTube video when he was saying hello to everyone and they were doing all his pictures and whatnot, he walked in the data analyst room. First thing he said is, "You guys are going to be doing a lot of work," and they kind of like half laughed, and he was like, "No, like seriously, you're going to be doing a lot of work." And then he said they was looking at the footage on the computer, and he said, "Oh, where's the camera?" And they said, and then he looked and he said, "Oh, behind the goal." And they went, "Oh, on this picture over there, it's in the corner as well. Have you got drones?" Next question. Like he was straight down to business. He knew exactly what he wanted.
Yep.
Attention to detail was there because I mean, look, it's probably it might be like that all clubs, but he's asking. He knows what cameras he needs. He knows where he wants these things. So that leads you to believe that he's not just saying he uses a lot of data. He knows what angles he wants. He knows where the best view is. For me, that's a very good sign.
Yeah. Look, I wish him all the best. I hope that he can get our team back up and everything. I just, like I said, I don't want to be negative. He just was not my first choice.
No. I think look, I know where you're coming from, but what I'm saying, and I'm not saying Emery didn't do this, but with Emery, we heard I'm really into data. I'm going to do PowerPoints and blah blah blah, video data.
Yep.
And we never actually saw anything. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying we never saw it, so we don't know. With Arteta, he's come in straight away, and they've purposely showed him. As I said, they obviously didn't show his whole 2-hour walk around the building. So, and they're obviously choosing what bits to show us. But they've shown us that he's gone in there straight away and said, "I want A, B, and C. You're going to be fucking busy." Like, so the actions are matching the words at the moment. And again, I'm not saying Emery's didn't, but we never saw that.
No, that's very cool. FPL Canada. What is FPL? FPL. Oh, that's that fantasy.
Yeah, your shit.
Yeah, I died in the arse when I went to hospital all over, that was. I'll give you 5 names. Both, and I'll go to you first, Sam, then I'll come back to you, Tony. Lacazette, Aubameyang, Ozil, Xhaka, Luiz. How many are still at Arsenal next season?
Come August?
I presume so, yeah. Yeah,
man.
next season, yeah.
I'd probably say 3.
Who's your 3?
3 or 4.
Mom, this isn't my blanket.
I can see Lacazette or Aubameyang. I can see one going. I'm not sure who yet, though. That might depend on how things roll out with Arteta and how people take to what he says he's going to do. And then there's so much in the air with Xhaka too right now. It's a good question.
It is.
I think a lot of it just depends on how these players all take to Arteta and how much he can get them behind the team and the way he's planning all of this out.
Well, Tony, I'm looking at that list now, and I'm thinking Lacazette goes, Aubameyang stays, Ozil stays, Granit stays. I don't know about Luiz, because something's got to change with this back line. And is he part of your future plans? I don't know. I don't know. What, did he sign a 2-year contract? Keeps him there next season. Then do you sell him? Do you get much, how's it? How's all that work anyway? Do you get much for him? I don't know. So I think Lacazette definitely goes. I just don't. I think his mentality's. He just doesn't seem to want to be here. Yeah, I think he wakes up every morning regretting that he couldn't go to Atletico Madrid. Anyway, Tony.
I think Lacazette goes. I think Aubameyang goes probably. I think Xhaka completely depends on him. And again, we don't know what state of mind or what he wouldn't be. It wouldn't be unreasonable to him to think every Arsenal fan is an absolute arsehole and I don't want to play football for them people. It wouldn't be unreasonable, to be honest. So I think his situation depends on him. Luiz probably kept around for experience but not playing too much. Because I think you've got Saliba coming in who can pass out from the back, which kind of takes away the need for Luiz. But, he's good cover, third or fourth choice. Can't really moan. And Ozil, probably there because no one will pay his wages. Look, we don't know. It could all turn around and he could be brilliant under Arteta. But I just think from a club's point of view, no one's going to pay his wages anyway. So I think 2 go, but 2 or 3, depending on what happens with Xhaka. And then the other 2 are kind of, you can't really get rid of.
My only thing is, it's so hard, but he's mentioned them 5 names, but I'm thinking, what about Socrates? What about Mustafi? Are they staying around? Like, we've got the young Saliba coming in next season, so somebody's definitely going along that back line. Chambers, is he to a point now where he's playing really good and his valuation's gone up, so we're going to cash in on him next year? What's Socrates' contract anyway? I just don't think you'd get a lot for him, would you?
No, I mean, none of them, the boys that are going to be valuable or get some decent money are your younger ones. So Chambers, Holding, Mustafi will get not a big amount, 10, 15 mil. The others, Luiz and what's his name, Socrates, wouldn't get that. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, time will tell. Right, I think we're just about to pump through. Well, I'm going to pump through these questions now. Premier League 11 of the decade. I haven't even prepared for that. Premier League 11 for the decade.
Premier League.
It says Premier League 11. That's going to be a lot more than a 30-second answer because I've really got to think of that. And anything I say now, people are going to go, "Oh, fuck, well, you missed this bloke out." And I'm like, yeah.
Just off the top of my head, and I've only thought about it since this question, I don't think I'd have an Arsenal player in it.
Really? Okay.
No.
Oh, decade. Yeah. Okay. See, now they're sinking up. Okay, I'm getting off that question because I'll be thinking about that cunt all day.
Yeah, I know this. This is what you do. In 3 days, you send me a message with 11 names. I'm like, what are you on about? I know this is exactly what you do. It'll be Christmas Day at like midnight, and I'll get a message from Tez saying like, the Heya company. I'm like, what the fuck are you on about?
That's my 11. So yeah, let's come back to that on Twitter. Do you think we'll start playing? This is MWA Gunnar. Do you think we'll start playing with 2 attacking midfielders now with a ball progressor behind, like how City have with De Bruyne and Silva and Rodri behind, Tony?
I mean, they tend to not play all of them at the same time. De Bruyne and Silva very, very rarely play together. I mean, yesterday it was a bit weird. They started the Bernardo Silva deep, but then that's because they had to fit Fernandinho in at centre back. I was surprised they dropped Rodri. I don't. I think we'll be at least 2, or I think we'll be a defensive midfielder in a box-to-box, or 2 that are semi-sitting. You've got to look at the players we've got. They're not good enough or we don't even have these attacking options.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, you look at, is he going to play Ozil, Willock and say Torreira? No, Torreira doesn't progress the ball well enough. If he plays Xhaka and say Willock and Torreira, or Xhaka and Willock and Ozil, or Ceballos and Ozil, that's got half a chance. I wouldn't recommend it, but I wouldn't be disgusted or really surprised to see that team. But no, I don't think on a general rule that he's going to play sort of progressive and attacking midfielders just because our defence isn't good enough.
Arteta's only worked under Pep, so his experience is based around Pep. He's done the apprenticeship there basically. When Pep came to City, he knew a style that he wanted to play, and he stuck with them players to keep that style. It wasn't for was next summer, probably two windows for him to start getting these players in. I wonder whether Arteta's going to be a similar manager at the start. This is how I want to play, and if you can't play the way my style is, you're eventually going to go. But
I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's exactly what it is, and I think that's why I'm saying I think they bring him in now rather than giving Freddie the 6 months. And as I said, you figure out teach the players your system, figure out who can do it and who can't, and then in the summer we're not going to give you an open checkbook like City did with Pep, but you can at least get players that somewhat fit that mould. They might be like at City, Pep spent 120 million on 2 fullbacks. We might give you 50 million to spend on 2 fullbacks.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly how it's going to be, and I think that's the reason they've made the appointment now.
Mm-hmm. MAA Gunner says, did it feel to you this game is a throwaway game? I suppose Everton. I think Freddie would always go out and try and get the 3 points. So I don't think it was a throwaway game. But what we got to point out of it, like Freddie, he loves Arsenal, so he's not going to go out there and just go, "Oh boys, just try your best. If we lose, we lose." Like, you still watch him on the sideline. I'd imagine you see him on the sideline as well, Tony. Like, he's
Everton. Yeah, I mean it's difficult because Everton, it's the exact opposite side, and unless you're in the upper tier, which I wasn't, you're quite low down, so you can't really. I couldn't tell you if he was just sitting down or marching up and down the touchline. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sam, you think Freddie would have given it everything he could, mate?
Yeah, I think he would. I think he may have held some out for just because we do have a Thursday game and then another game right after the New Year, so that may have played a part into his decision. But I think we do have to give Freddie some credit for everything that he got thrown into.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think he's handled it very well.
No, I agree. MAA Gunner, did we dodge a bullet with Ancelotti? Everton have made him the 4th highest manager in the world at £11 million and gets a $4 million bonus for keeping Everton up, which I can do for free. I don't know whether we dodged a bullet or not, but I'd tell you what, that was the most weirdest Like, I thought Arteta was odd announcing the way they did, but it was strange with Ancelotti as well. He's sitting up there with them all in the. Oh, you wouldn't have seen it, Tony, on the TV, but I just thought that was so strange the way they did that as well. So.
Well, I mean, they announced it, so all of the journalists in the press room when they got there had a document saying we've just appointed Ancelotti. I guess again, everyone knew it was done earlier in the week. They went the opposite from us and just tried to not distract their players, and it made sense because they'd beat Chelsea, they drew with Man United away, they drew with Leicester, so they have to announce him at some point, but they didn't want to disrupt their players. So when they done it, the team was already picked and everything was already set for today's game. With us, we needed the disruption because we've been shit. So we was trying to pick them up. They was doing the opposite and trying not to deflate them. So the timing was a bit weird, but makes sense. In terms of dodging a bullet, as I said earlier, I didn't want him. I don't know. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I've not read any details of his contract. I did read he was going to be on 11 or £11.5 million a year, which is ridiculously high, but that's what you pay when you're a smaller club trying to get into the bigger leagues. Yeah. So I don't think he would have got that money at Arsenal. Like, he's almost like to Everton, I'm sort of doing you a favour coming down here, so you've got to overpay me.
Yeah.
I don't know if the 4 million. The first I've heard of the 4 million bonus was when this question was asked. If it's true, he's got a fucking good agent.
Yeah, bloody oath. Yeah, very good. And he would have just got a payout being sacked from Napoli as well. So good.
It depends. Again, we're reading a lot more of now that there's certain rules that you can't take another job within a certain time. We don't know what his agreement was with Napoli.
Yeah.
because he wouldn't have been anywhere near that money at Napoli. So
No.
he might have been, if you stay out of work for 6 months, you're going to get, say, 4 million, and then he's been offered 11.5, and that might be the reason why he's on such high wages. They may have said, oh, we think you're worth 7, and he might have said, I agree, but I lose £4 million by signing this piece of paper. So they've gone, oh, okay, £4 million more to cover your loss.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it all could be reasons why he might not have got a payout. I think with that sort of money, 11 million and a 4 million staying up bonus, if that's true, he probably didn't get a payout.
Yeah. Good luck.
But again, I'm putting 2 and 2 together here, and I could be getting 400. Like,
Yeah, I know, it's hard. Okay, that's all the questions, lads. I'm just going to double check because there's 18 notifications on this account, so just double checking if there was any last ones come through. Link to my channel, no, nothing there, lads. Okay, we've got Bournemouth coming up, Tony. I won't be on that podcast, but I should be back for maybe the Chelsea one, but anyway, we'll find out. And then, Manchester United. I'm just going to ask quickly, 3 games, how many points?
I don't even know what formation we're going to play. We've got to be... Bournemouth are not playing well. We've got to be hoping to beat them. 6. I'd be happy with 6.
Yeah, we were 6 out of them 3. Yeah. Yeah,
and only because the new manager. Usually, I'd be saying we should be getting at least 7. But obviously, we've got a new manager. We don't know how he's going to play. We don't know what players he likes. He doesn't know what players he likes. So you can't go and expect him to not lose in 3 games with very few, probably really only 1 or 2 training sessions.
I would, look, I agree. I would like 3 over Bournemouth, 3 over United, because I think they play pretty. Watch that game against Watford.
An issue with United, and I said this on last week when everyone was going mad about them beating Tottenham and City, is they're good against the bigger teams because they look to counter-attack with the pace of James, Rashford and Martial. They're shit against the teams that don't attack them. In a sick way, Emery's team would have been better off against United.
Yeah, I know.
And that's like if Arteta comes in and tries.
Yeah.
One advantage is it does seem that Arteta is very clever, and he gets a lot of credit at City for realising stuff in games and suggesting that they change something. Like they gave him massive credit against us last year. They 1-0 up, couldn't get the second goal, and this is coming from City. Not that he said that the Arsenal defenders are going very deep when they get to the byline, so pull the ball back to the edge of the box, and then they started doing that and they scored the second goal. So he does seem to learn and notice things very quickly. So one advantage could be that they played United at home, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? So if he does learn as quick as what we're believed to, he could have that game plan based on how United are going to play against us, which would be a bit of an advantage.
What about you, Sam? How many points we take out of them 3 games, mate?
I'd be happy with 6.
Yep.
I think so.
6
I would love
points.
9. That'd be really great.
That would be. That'd be really good. Okay, boys. So Darren will be leading up a podcast after the Bournemouth game with Tony and I believe who's that dude that you had on last week? What's his? I'm hoping. Liam. So yeah, Liam. And you 3 boys. So look, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for understanding, the issues that I've also had this year, and look, the DMs just keep rolling in, Tony. So, look, Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope Santa's really good to you, and yeah, stay safe, travel safe, and for all your holidays and whatnot. What is it? A white Christmas over there for you, Sam? Is it?
Actually, it's about mid-50s, 60s right now.
Shit, there you go. What about you, Tony?
It's not white, it's grim and cold, but it ain't white.
Miserable fucking place, isn't it?
You're right, yeah.
Okay, boys. Thank you again, and I'll speak to you during the week. Thanks, Tony.
Cheers.
Thanks, Sam.
Yep. Cheers.
And thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in to the Clock and Talk. See ya.